This episode is sponsored by Bigger City. Thank you so much for supporting us and helping our show to grow. Hello, and welcome to the Big Fat Gay Podcast, where we talk about the things that are weighing on our minds. My name is Michael Willer. I am a chubby chaser, and I'm an excited in-person boy today. Yay! No lag. It's amazing.
My name is Don. I'm a big chubby guy living here in sunny Hollywood, and I too am glad to be alive and live. And alive.
My name is Dan Oliverio, author, public speaker, and chubby chaser. And I don't know. I'm just happy to have all you fine gentlemen in our fine home.
You look pleased as Punch.
Yes. Punch did figure into my happiness.
The most plosives that I can possibly think of.
I'm Trevor Keyson. I'm a super chub, and I'm also a happy boy. I had a little quiche, a little creamy.
Trevor,
donut.
I believe it's pronounced quitch.
A quickie. Having a quickie before the podcast, and we're together. I'll spare us the thing where I make us hold hands.
Right.
Which I've done a couple times.
He said while holding his coffee. I know what's happening here.
As we mentally hold hands together, we are going to hold hands and thank all of our Patreon subscribers for helping us stay afloat. We're going to say thank you to Big Fig for being our wonderful associate and sponsor, and for Bearskin, who has provided us a promo code where you can save 15% off if you type in Big Fat Gay Pod when you make your purchase. Excellent stuff and good ways to support the podcast. So thank all of you for helping us stay on the air like that.
And we are also coming up on our 200th episode. 200 minimum.
Because we actually somehow do not number sequentially, because we have like letters of the alphabet in there. And
there's
decimal points.
Two-part episodes where it's twice the editing for a single number. Anyway, we are going to do kind of a listener roundup clip show. So if you guys have anything you want to let us know, let other listeners know, share your stories related to the podcast, related to your experiences around the podcast, you can record them as a voice memo on your phone. You can send them to us. If you would like to send them, you can use WeTransfer.com. It is free and easy and safe. And you can email it to bigfatgaypod@gmail.com.
One story I would love to hear from listeners about is people going out and trying new things that they were afraid to do before the podcast, or maybe the podcast gave them the tools to go out and engage in. What have you done differently?
I call this ground taken.
Success stories. And frankly, no story is too small. If you feel like, oh, well, I did have a thing, but I don't know, nothing came of it, but it was still kind of nice. Like, we would love to hear that too.
Yeah, we want to celebrate your small steps along with your big ones, because the small steps help you get to the big ones.
Absolutely.
And I will make us hold hands during the 200th episode.
You've been warned.
How dare you? Hello, everybody. Before we dive in, this is Future Michael here. We have decided that we're going to do another Halloween movie this year, and we wanted to let you know early so that you could have a chance to watch it yourselves. We are going to be watching the 1985 cult classic, The Stuff. It is a campy, fun horror movie about this mysterious, delicious dessert that people just can't stop eating and the horrible things that happens to them. So if you want to be in on the joke while we do that episode, go ahead and watch The Stuff, 1985, sometime between now and October 30th, which is when that episode will come out. All right, back to the episode.
So that said, why don't we move on to pop culture?
Oh, yes. Where's my... It's been so long. There we go. We're actually all in sync now. It's so exciting.
Why do I always picture us dressed as penguins for this part? It's the wah wah.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
Oh, it's the Burgess Meredith wah wah.
So I never knew this is something I needed.
Oh my God. So much so.
So the Ogunquit Playhouse.
Oh, yes.
In Ogunquit, Maine, put on a production of the musical Little Shop of Horrors.
Mm-hmm.
And in this production,
what's special about it?
Latrice Royale as Audrey 2, the
plant.
Yes.
The famous man-eating plant at the center of the play.
Yes.
Yeah.
Traditionally played by a male voice with a tremendous booming bass.
Well, they
crescendo.
nailed that.
And but
a giant puppet.
I've always thought there was sort of a feminine feel to the plant, so I love this casting.
Before we get into like the rest of it, I just want to play the clip real quick. This is kind of a trailer of the show, which starts with Latrice Royale as Audrey 2.
Feed me.
So good.
Oh my God.
Oh my
Yes.
God, I love that.
Latrice's voice is so iconic.
It's perfect for this role.
Well, and I think what's also great about it, if you look at the stills from the show, you can see Latrice like emerging from the
Yeah.
plant.
Yes.
Because so I remember the first time I saw this show back in the 20th century. No, you never saw the curtain call. You had just a guy come out in like wave because they were in civilian
because they're
clothes.
fully covered.
They were fully
in the
covered because
costume.
the plant literally ate them. So it's really nice to see the actor integrated into the costume because of the makeup and like it's really a nice way to showcase the actor.
It's a good video to watch too because the costumes for all of the cast look so good. There were other people in plant costumes too that looked beautiful. Latrice Royale sounded amazing in that clip.
And in case you're wondering, like Algonquin Playhouse, what the fuck? Maine? Why? What the? No, actually, this is one of the more major theaters in the country. The show that closed right before Little Shop was A Little Night Music featuring Kathleen Turner.
Whoa.
As well, in a minor but important role as
Still.
Madame Armfelt.
I hope and pray that this production tours because I would love to see it.
It's so unexpected, but also it's like, of course Audrey 2 should be a drag queen.
Yeah.
Like that's just,
Well, it kind of written that way, yeah.
Yeah.
well, no, but even just like,
Yeah, you're
'cause
right,
I've said
I'm
there
doing
are so many productions. I mean, there's like compilations of like Audrey 2 fails from
I've never
local
seen that.
productions and school productions of like, because it's trying to make a giant puppet when like it's like, okay, we have $20 for the budget of this play.
Yeah.
And
And we're spending 10 of that on the plant.
I was going to say 15.
How generous. So when you take the costume and make it into this drag dress, it makes total sense.
Yes.
It just works.
Especially when drag has this tradition of transforming costumes.
Yeah.
Right? And they really look like they utilized it beautifully.
Yeah, as the plant grows larger and larger, the gown becomes more and more ostentatious.
So cool.
I mean, obviously, it starts as a little tiny little plant, but yeah.
And as much fun as it looks like Latrice Royale had with this, it sounds like Colin Farrell had even less fun with his costume in our second story.
Part of me is like, good.
Yes.
Oh, did the fat suit not work for you? Oh,
Okay.
I was so happy to see this headline and like, yeah, I bet it fucking sucks, you piece of shit.
And so this headline is from AV Club and
Yes.
is Colin Farrell sounds so goddamn mad at his penguin fat suit right now.
Yeah.
And the entire article is basically talking about how much fun this production was, how much he enjoyed it, and how much he hated being in that outfit and how much it just made it the entire experience a nightmare.
exactly. And he does thank all the myriad of technicians who helped him into the suit.
Yeah.
But he basically said, I'm so glad I will never put on this shit again because he finished taping the series.
Specifically, he said, I never want to put that fucking suit on and that fucking head on again, which to be clear, there's no like headpiece. He's literally talking about the fat prosthetics on his face.
Yeah. He was just consumed by prosthetics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Did I read this right? Basically, when asked if he would do it again, he said, "Oh, sure."
Yeah, I mean, he's
What the
he
fuck?
said-
he's
he
in
said-
reaction mode. He said he'd consider it.
If a way opened up to make it possible, he'd be open to it. But I've read interviews with actors like that before, and that the thing was like, yeah, if we don't use that makeup again, I'd be happy to do it.
Yeah, and as William Hughes, who wrote this article, which is pulling from an interview from Total Film, which is where Colin Farrell was actually talking about this, it's kind of like right after Daniel Craig did James Bond for the 800th time, and he's like, I'm never fucking playing Bond again. And then he does one more as kind of a victory lap, like last movie. Like, when you come right out of a project, maybe you're kind of sick of it, and particularly if if you have a fat suit, because it was so not necessary.
It was and that's kind of the point he makes in the article is that we could have tried acting, but they went with prosthetics.
Or just like, if you really, it's so important to the world of the Batman that Penguin looks a certain way. There's plenty of actor. I mean, I saw someone post like, if you really want a penguin to look like that, like Richard Kind is right there.
Yeah. Well, that's the anomaly. Like, we're going to cast one of the most physically normally attractive men in Hollywood to fuck up his physique when you could have had so many other actors. And here's the other thing. And, maybe this is my bias showing, because I think a lot of comics are really weak. If the most important thing about the Penguin is his physique, that's not an interesting character.
Yeah.
I mean, I would agree with that. I think, when you're pulling from comics or something extremely visual, the association is important, but no, it's not the most important trait. And they could have cast a fat actor.
Well, and to point out, the last live action incarnation of the Penguin I can think of is the one from Gotham.
Yes.
Where he was played by a very lithe, thin.
I mean, it was Twink Penguin, and it was a very good
It was a really good take on the character.
Exactly. That's my point. It's really, if the most important thing is that he's ugly and fat, stop it.
My wish, my dark wish. This is where I always say I'm chaotic neutral. This is more like chaotic evil.
He lies like a
interesting.
Rug.
Like if the penguin makeup and like the prosthetics could be like the haunted mask from Goosebumps, and Colin Farrell's like, okay, it's time to wrap filming. And it's like, wait,
it's not coming off.
I can't find the seams.
I can't breathe.
Oh, you are evil. You are such a fucking evil little guy.
Yes, that's Trevor all over. Evil little guy.
But this experience does underline the fact there's some actors that are working in the industry that you may never recognize on the street that have made a career in working in these prosthetics. So the actor Doug Jones.
I was just thinking of Doug Jones.
Doug Jones, one, for those of you who aren't familiar with him, he plays Saru, the very tall, thin alien in Star Trek Discovery.
He also plays the first beautiful alien you see in Prometheus.
Yep. He plays the fish man in Hellboy.
In Pan's Labyrinth, he plays the
guy with the eyes in the eyes in the hands.
But wasn't he also the guy on the still, like the main?
Yeah.
He was the Silence in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I mean, every tall monster in Hollywood.
But there are a lot of actors that have had to do this sort of work in the past, and none of them have enjoyed the experience. But let's throw them a little respect for that.
Well, and while we're on the topic, Andy Serkis?
Andy Serkis.
Yeah.
Well, he brought a new style of acting with mocap. People didn't understand how intricate that was when he first showed up.
Because at the time, it was like motion capture to kind of help the animators put the character digitally together. And then it became performance capture, where you actually have the full range of performance, which I think is what Andy turned it into. Like, because he was delivering such performances, you didn't want to lose it. And so technology developed to keep up with that level of performance.
I mean, almost to keep up with him.
I imagine if he had done that practically, if they had used prosthetics to do Gollum,
no way.
It couldn't have been the same performance.
Well, and Gollum has to be, that's another example of a body type defining the character. Like Gollum has to be this like emaciated half creature. Yeah. You would have to have cast somebody and we would have missed out on Andy Serkis. Maybe the other actor would have also done a great job, this sort of imaginary.
But prosthetics, I don't think current prosthetics have the ability to project emotion through them the way you can with a mocap face still. Because you can still see the face.
Yeah,
I agree.
But you know who has an opinion on this? Our eagle! Fat Watch 2024!
I'm not really hearing the opinion in that.
Well, that's because you don't speak Eagle Dan.
So today, Fat Watch features the return of an old friend of the podcast.
Yes, things are kicking up with the election. And we have an unfriendly reminder from Tigress Osborne, the executive director of NEFA. But this is on her personal page. It really just kind of captures a lot of feelings I've been having from the recent discourse I've been seeing online.
Unfriendly reminder. Unfriendly. Anti-fatness in your anti-Trump posts upholds anti-fatness. Period. You ain't got to do all that. There are 100,000 other things to despise about this former president. Unless you despise fat or you despise fat people, you don't have to bring his size up at all when you talk about why you despise him. You don't have to post or repost images where he's exaggeratedly fat to emphasize whatever is gross about him. You can interrupt people who are talking about his body size or the body size of any politician that you don't like, and using that as a proxy for what is wrong with them or their policies or their mentality. You can interrupt that. And when you say that you do it because he makes jokes about other people's bodies, I'm like, really? That's what you modeling yourself after him? You don't have to throw fat people under the bus to make the points that you want to make about Donald Trump. And the reason the reminder is unfriendly is because we've been saying this to you. Fat people have been saying this to you as a friendly reminder since the 2016 election. And you keep doing it. And the friendly is running out. It's running out.
Fuck yes.
Fucking here.
It's beautiful.
I've actually, I kind of lost a friend over this. He would make all these anti-Trump memes, and every single anti-Trump post he had included what a fat every time. And I'm like, you don't have to do that. And I started off with a friendly reminder, and he doubled down. He's like, well, I'm very pro body positivity. Everybody knows that. And so there, I'm like, and I tried to go back in and I was trying to say, no, look, think about all the fat people who read that and go, yep, I guess it's terrible that he's fat. Think about the kids who are growing up fat and they look at that post and they think, well, that's really the worst thing you can be. I mean, you could be a terrible politician, but to be a fat, terrible politician, whoa.
And it's so fucking clear that when you say fat and all of the other negative things about him, that you are equating fatness with all of those other horrible things.
No, so something that I feel like I saw a lot of and then it stopped for a while and came back was the photoshopping pictures of Trump to make him look fatter.
Because the way to criticize him is to talk about his weight.
Yeah, but just like, I don't understand the point of like, well, I'm going to make him look fatter because like he looks fat, but like not fat enough.
Well, they're backing into it. Because he's I guess fat. He's not like super fat or egregiously so. And so they're saying, we really want to call him a fat slob. Let's make him look fatter.
Well,
so it works.
what it is he's so disgusting. He's even fatter than he seems.
Yeah.
It's an expression of disgust. It's people's way of expressing their disgust for him visually is to make him even fatter.
Yeah.
Well, and also like people are so understandably, and I am absolutely one of them, so intensely emotionally anti-Trump that anything that feels like you might be defending Trump in some way is unacceptable and they won't hear it.
Right.
And it's like, we're not, to be clear, not defending Trump. We're defending fat people.
Yeah. Well, and so I know a lot of fat people that do engage in this.
Yes,
with Trump.
as do I.
Yeah.
And take some time to just kind of like do some introspection and just kind of break down why are you doing this? Because often it's like, well, I'm fat, so I can say he's a fat piece
I'm
of shit.
allowed. Like,
So with this one, I've been a little quiet because I'm going to acknowledge that I have been part of the problem on this issue. And I don't do the fat thing, but if I get engaged in a name calling contest with someone, I will use names that I know will hurt them in some way.
you mean like sitting across from somebody?
Sitting across from someone, right? But then that is a tool for me to attack you. I'm not justifying this. However, if I'm putting a message out into the world, right? I'm not saying it to you for your consumption. I'm putting it out into the world and I'm calling you fat, right? Now I am advocating for fat to be a bad thing. I haven't done it with fat, but I have done it with I think I've done it with gay, because it's part of the language. I've been trying to work on that and pull that back over the past couple years, but I've been a little mushy on it. I think Tigress's message there is very clear, very concise, very well put, and very convincing.
Well, and it really just illuminates how
pervasive.
How instinctively easy of a slur of an insult fat is in our society. It's it's the first, I mean, I've said this before on the show, but like the first thing I remember in terms of an insult, hearing it, like if my dad got mad at a driver who cut him off on the road, it was, what a fat idiot. It was always fat followed by some other insult.
Yeah, because being an idiot is one thing, but being a fat idiot is just inexcusable.
Yeah, and it's like not based on like seeing the driver and they were actually fat. It had nothing to do with that.
If only that idiot would lose weight and be less of an idiot.
Right. Exactly. So don't do that. Please. Just don't.
So again, respect to Tigress. That was a great little message.
Yeah.
Out there.
If you see it, send your friends an unfriendly reminder.
An unfriendly reminder. Yeah.
Well, and there are plenty of other things to vilify him for.
Yeah.
There's a lot of options. Like you don't have to.
Yeah. It's not like, if I can't insult him for being fat, what have I got left?
Yeah.
It's truly like remove that one descriptor and as she says, you have 100,000 others.
Because the alternative is fat encompasses all of them. And
Yeah.
that's
Sure.
what we're objecting to.
Yeah. Anyway.
So, I mean, given that there is this just kind of discourse very present, and it's only going to be getting worse, and it may be worse after the election. It's, we're getting close to when people are starting to plan their holidays.
I just saw my life flash before my eyes when you said that. But yes, moving into our main subject.
So we wanted to talk about kind of like, if you don't want to see your kind of Trumpy family, you don't want to get in, just the holiday traps you may have fallen to in the past. How can you, starting now, because this is when people are like, okay, what's happening for Thanksgiving? Are you coming home? What's going on?
Now's the easiest time to start wrapping yourself up in bubble wrap and prepping for the holidays.
Or finding a way not to be there.
Yes.
Or finding a way to do it differently. Or healing a relationship that you'd rather not heal over the dinner table.
Yeah, there's no one single situation, but I think, figuring out what you need is what this conversation
And
is about.
doing it a week beforehand isn't always the best way to do it. So let's think about what went wrong last Christmas and how do we correct it this time around?
Yeah, either ameliorate it,
holidays.
avoid it, create something different.
Yeah. So I have this experience with, I don't think he'll mind, but I'm talking about my partner, Michael's mom, where she's a lovely person in many ways. She was a huge Obama supporter. And now she's a huge Trump supporter.
Wow.
And I don't know that I can fully wrap my head around how that happened, except maybe she just likes to be subversive.
Contrarian.
Whoever is being hated on, she wants to support. I think that's what he said.
Could be.
So I've spent a handful of holidays with her and his family, and by and large, very enjoyable experiences, but also there's always that tension of, is this going to come up? Are we going to have to talk about this? And it has come up before. And I don't know that I think my only way through it has been to kind of just grip the arms of the chair a little harder and just fly through it like the MTV guy in the armchair with the winds blowing past him. And I don't know that that's necessarily the best way to do it, because it kind of shuts me down. I have to just survive the conversation.
I mean, me, that's absolutely not what I would do, but we are very different people.
But this is a great one to bring up, because when we're seeing family in November and December this year, we're going to be hot on the heels of something that's going to be devastating to half the country. No matter who wins.
Yeah.
Right? Well, people are going to be hurting this holiday season. So prepping for these interactions is going to be essential this time around. And is it possible for you to get together with her and avoid these topics, or is avoidance going to have to be the strategy this year?
I gotta say, depending on how the election goes, something's gonna come up. It's unavoidable.
I would hazard to say that it doesn't matter how the election goes, because usually we're
whichever way. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, just because we're so used to and the next day we all wake up and we know who the new president is. No, that is not going to happen. Whatever the ballots say, the Republican standpoint is we win or there's fraud. We win or there's fraud. We win or there's fraud. There's only two options: winning or fraud.
Right.
And so that is not going away. And on the left, it's what are we going to do if the unthinkable occurs? Here's my point. I think this Thanksgiving, given the election season, is going to be unlike any other Thanksgiving anyone's ever had. I think the next 6 months after the election will be unlike any other period after the post-election. Oh my God. Whether it's the stock market or the kitchen table. And so here's my point. Let me get to my point.
Trevor's blood pressure is skyrocketing.
My point is, I think in many cases, the most valid option, and I'm thinking of this, of you, sitting around with your boyfriend's
sort of in-law,
mom. Yeah. You simply get up and leave the table.
Which I could absolutely see happening.
You absolutely
and
just
that
leave
would
the
be
table.
the first time.
You do not
for me.
combat it. You simply leave the table and it goes away for you.
Can I offer a prophylactic before that? One suggestion I might put out to everybody who has very divided families would be to send out a general email beforehand, before the election. No, before the election.
I don't know.
No, it doesn't matter.
And say can we agree before the holidays not to bring any of this up? It may not be right for every family, but I'm gonna say there may be some families out there where that
I could see
that would make that for me, that would make standing up and leaving the room a little bit more acceptable because you've been warned.
The fact that you're like, this Thanksgiving is going to be the most like
it's true.
Every Thanksgiving I feel like has been that for the past like 6 years.
Yeah,
Not like this.
Like,
It's been a steady escalation.
No, I'm sorry. We have never had an attempted coup by the Republican Party.
I mean, I want to speak to, I kind of course correct a bit into like, these are strategies for, I guess, disarming your family, disarming the bomb inside the turkey.
yeah, and we're not just talking about politics, by the way. This
disabling
is
the traps of all
And
kinds.
it could just be like,
Being gay.
you are fat showing up at Thanksgiving.
Yep.
yeah. All kinds
You
of
are,
different triggers.
have always been fat. You are recently fat. You have gained weight. You've lost weight, whatever. Dan and I, for the past couple several Thanksgivings, we have either seen his family or done a Friendsgiving, which is always great. And it is a great thing to have, just kind of get together with people, do a more low stakes Thanksgiving. And my sister has been the kind of primary child for my family's Thanksgivings with my mom.
Okay.
And there's been, it's Thanksgiving. I'll just leave it at that. It's Thanksgiving. Family stuff happens at Thanksgiving.
And to be clear, it's been at her house where they all come and we don't go because we're 3,000 miles away, but they all did.
Or like they've gone out and it's just been going out for Thanksgiving can be terrible. And like this year, my sister's like, I want to just be able to spend Thanksgiving with my husband and just do a Thanksgiving with the two of us.
Yeah.
And that is her dream, to just have a solo Thanksgiving with the two of them where there is not any expectations. There are not
Thanksgiving
any
/ date night
wrangling. And now she's closer to her husband's family. So she's not sure if that's going to play out. But if you can create that for yourself and maybe just reach out to your local friends and be like, hey, are you going away for Thanksgiving? What's going on? Do you want to do a Friendsgiving? Even I know some Discords I'm on will do hey, for everyone who's not going anywhere for Thanksgiving, or, you're going to your family and you just need to go hide in your room to get through the holiday. We're going to be watching movies on Discord, having a playlist throughout the day, hop in, hop out.
And I think apropos of this episode, start that now.
Yeah.
Because the time to invite people to your Friendsgiving is not the week of Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Right.
When you're desperate, I'm not going home. I can't stand the idea of going home. So I guess I'll have a Friendsgiving and I've got 48 hours to find friends and a turkey.
Or with Trevor's thing, finding sort of the right mix of things for your group. I know a group that does that with Mystery Science Theater. Does a streaming channel on Thanksgiving, and they just pop in. You sit down, you watch Mystery Science Theater with some friends. You pop back out.
Yeah. And I think, it's called Thanksgiving. What are you thankful for? You're thankful for the people in your life that love and support you and whom you love and support. And that may very many times not be your family.
More like Wokesgiving. What's this nonsense?
I think I'm lucky because my family is by and large very easy to be around, at least in terms of topics and opinions. I think there's a lot of energy levels that I sometimes struggle with that I kind of get exhausted by, but not in a mean way, just in a okay, I need a nap now. But Thanksgiving is definitely one of those kind of fraught holidays where I'm kind of always waiting for somebody. My older sister's husband, my brother-in-law, is very much in that we got to work off dinner. That kind of thing, which is very in the grand scheme of things is really not that bad, but it's just so tiresome. It's just, how many times do we have to go this route? And my younger sister's husband is a little like this too. He's just not as, I don't know, grim about it. He's more kind of he's more all right, let's go. That's
okay,
more his
let's
energy.
do a run to work off that meal as opposed to, okay, we're going to have to do a run to work off that meal.
Yeah. Or let's take, because they live at the top of a hill. They're in a very hilly area. And at the bottom of the hill, and this is a large hill with a staircase of probably 150 steps or so.
Oh, that sounds
maybe 200.
That sounds like so much fun, Michael.
It's literally hey, we could drive our car to where we're going, or we could walk down these stairs, take the light rail, and then walk back up those fucking stairs at the end of our journey to get back to the house. Well, no, and this happens every time. This isn't even something they do for Thanksgiving. It's just, we should get the exercise now. And so you go up and down those stairs every time.
It's funny. I am relating to that. For me, it would be the same outcome. I would totally vote for that plan. But Because I get to ride on a train. I live in Southern California. I never get to ride on a train. I would love to do that. There's public transportation. Yes, take that. Okay, there's some steps.
It's
whatever,
at the bottom of a good it's at least 200 stairs.
Right.
I mean,
and
you're going to have to drive anyway because you're going to have to come pick me up from the bottom of the stairs.
I like trains.
Yeah, and you can take the train if you want. So it's exhausting for me, particularly like last year. Like I was in kind of I was in this like wormhole of health and bad medication, and I was kind of a walking zombie. And my fitness level went through the floor. I didn't have any energy anyway, and doing those stairs was fucking hard. Like I was struggling with it. Like normally it wouldn't really be that bad for me, but I don't know. That felt like being dragged like torturously along behind the group. And I think now I might advocate for like, hey, we don't have to do that.
I think there's also, and I'm going to hear what you all think. I think there's also value if you're in a mixed size group, someone who is perceived as thin and fit, being the voice of, oh, do we really want to do that? So that it doesn't have to be the fat person who does it. Even and the fat. Let's be clear, the fat person may be all in favor of it, but they may feel there are a lot of people who may feel they don't have a choice because of healthism. That they should want to do this, or if they don't want to do it, well, isn't that really the problem?
I am fully anticipating a like either pre or post Thanksgiving dinner walk, and I'm going to just opt out. I'm just like, I just want to hang out on the couch and be cozy and not, you guys go
and
get
be goddamn
sweaty.
thankful for it.
Yeah. Like you guys go get sweaty. I don't want to do that.
It's funny listening to you talk about that experience. It actually was giving me anxiety, and I was trying to figure out why.
Wow.
Well, I was trying to figure out why, because like I don't get pressured like that anymore. But then I realized when I was a kid, my family would always do that. There'd be pressure to go out for like I grew up in the Berkshires, right? So a 2 mile walk is uphill in both directions, right? There's always, right? And I was always
twice as steep the next time you do it.
And I was always a fat kid. And then I started realizing, like, I don't know if it was true or not, but it settled in my head. We're being forced to take these walks because you think I'm fat and this is going to improve me.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing this, because of me.
Did you ever get that confirmed?
I think I sort of did from my father, as much confirmation as I'll ever get.
Sure.
So it's interesting, like that set up this complex in me that's still there to this day, that when you're talking about it, it's actually making me sweat, you know?
It's funny. This is slightly tangential, but short. I had a similar thing. I would be visiting my dad because my parents were divorced, and he had this expression instead of let's go to lunch. When we were like, we're visiting with family, we're visiting with his business associates. And instead of saying like, okay, time to stop this, we're going to go to lunch. He'd say like, oh, I got to go get him fed. And as the fat kid, and they got to go get you fed.
That's a hell of a way to put that.
Jesus,
it was really awful. It was really awful. Like you're not going to eat, please. Like you're not hungry. You're stopping the conversation to leave. Like making it me.
Boy.
But it reminds me of that same thing of like, we wouldn't be doing this except you're so goddamn fat.
It's funny. These seeds can get planted so deep. You don't even know where they came from until you.
And he meant nothing of it. He just, I think in his world, it was like, I'm going to take care of my son.
Yeah.
Right.
I totally could see my dad saying that too. I totally get that.
I'm surprised. So I just was thinking of this with you talking about your family and the stairs, and like you guys do crazy Thanksgivings, which is a lot of work in terms of like just
the preparation of all
the food and the meals and the everything that goes into the meals, and like just Thanksgiving prep and the amount of like walking back and forth in the kitchen. Like Thanksgiving Day, I feel like it's one of those days where like I look at my watch and it's like, oh, I walked 2 miles
just in
like
your house,
pacing my kitchen, and probably doing the same in the days leading up to Thanksgiving. Because it's just like, okay, prep. And like, that's the working off the meal is like, you do it before making the meal. And then your reward is, I am tired from cooking and I'm tired from eating and I'm going to rest so I can have more food.
I highly recommend a kitchen mat. I don't know. My feet are sensitive. So
walking
on a hard floor. But my older sister takes care of all that stuff. I'm very lucky. I kind of just show up and maybe I'll make some like melted onions or something, which is like virtually no work. It's just,
and by the way, for those of us who actually like a walk after a meal, you can still do that. You just don't have to corral everybody.
Well,
Yeah.
No one's allowed to walk.
You can go do like say like, hey, anybody up for a walk? Okay, great, go. That's fine.
Yeah.
But don't start into it by saying, oh, well, we got to work off dinner.
No, exactly.
Like-
I think the way I would phrase it is I'm going to go for a walk. Would anyone like to join me?
Yeah.
So that it's not
Yeah.
even about like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm going to do this.
For sure.
Would anyone like to join me? Yes, no, out,
I mean,
in, go.
if you're going to sit down and play Monopoly, you're not going to force everyone to play it, are you?
Oh, people
Like-
do. People do, Don. People do.
Oh, Jesus.
So
I've been at those
I need
parties.
somebody's money to take.
I want to just add this, I don't know, little wrinkle to the walk thing. I always associate like a walk, usually before the Thanksgiving meal, is like, oh, the cousins are all going to go smoke and get high.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Let's go take a walk. Wink, wink.
Yeah,
Oh, strange. Okay.
Yeah.
it is. I don't. Maybe
Not
it's
in
like a
my family.
Midwestern thing.
That's
No, in my
not-
Italian family, the pre-Thanksgiving is, well, it's the pre-meal. It's the antipasti.
Yeah, you got to eat.
You got to eat. You got to eat to work up an appetite.
Yeah.
And then there's a massive meal, and then sometimes some people will go for a walk.
Out of curiosity, Trevor, as a fellow big guy,
Yes.
I know I find a walk more pleasurable when I haven't just had an enormous
Yes.
meal.
You think?
I mean, I keep picturing like, how would I react to someone being like, let's go for, I would just like picture like, I'm on the couch and like a pie plate on my stomach and I'm like, fuck you.
Yeah, like I might be willing to take a pleasure walk before that Thanksgiving dinner, but hell no.
No, yeah, that's, especially like a Thanksgiving meal. I feel
Oh,
like
Jesus.
it's especially
Yeah.
like, like
Yeah, I'm on this in the same.
I'm not putting on shoes. I'm going to be barefoot, just like waddling through the street.
Which is why serious fitness enthusiasts go to the gym Thanksgiving morning.
Yeah.
I don't think we can wrap the subject up without actually delivering some actionable advice.
Yeah.
We've kind of talked about like get ahead of whatever it is that you might be leaning into, but I wonder if there's something more precise we can deliver. Dan, he's got his hand up.
Well, I was going to say this when you're talking about like, they're all, hey, we got to walk off that meal. And I think a very nice response to that is like, no, I don't feel guilty about eating. I'm good here.
Yeah, I that's great. I might use that.
Where it's just about you. I don't feel
like-
guilty about eating. I'm good here.
What like my position right now is like it's happened enough times and I've wanted to say something and it's been like, oh well, it's just this once this year.
Oh, fuck it.
And then you come back the next year and it keeps happening. So I really want to interrupt it.
Yeah.
And I think that will be I think that's what I'm going to say this.
Well, and even if they come back with, well, I don't feel guilty. I'm like, well, great. Enjoy your walk.
Awesome.
I would be curious. I would be curious to hear the result afterwards.
Yeah, I'm going to use that. I mean, because it will absolutely happen. That I'm certain of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think having those responses prepared, I think reaching out to your friends, reaching out to like make your own little Friendsgiving, make your own found family Thanksgiving. And I think also just if you are part of any discords, like put it out there like, hey, is anyone going to be alone for Thanksgiving?
Yes.
Do we want to do a movie marathon? Do we want to like just have a little support system going for people like who are traveling, but just like need to be able to get away? Because I think there's going to be a lot of people who are in that boat of just like, I have to go. And I'm just going, I need a tether to keep me grounded so I don't just go insane.
People who have gotten up from the table and are fuming and need someone to text at.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I'm going to make a slightly different suggestion. I'm going to suggest a Thanks Healing event afterwards. I find with a lot of the family events, there's going to be some specific damage. And often, like, the favorite food that you wanted for Thanksgiving won't be there.
Oh.
That sort of thing.
Oh,
So
that
if you do a
sucks.
Thanks Healing afterwards, if everybody just brings their favorite dish
that they
to
didn't
your
get to have.
friends that you didn't get to have, and it's just a kind of like a fetch session at first, and then you get over the family experience, and then you're with your friends
I
having
love that.
all the best food, probably all side dishes. There's not going to be a turkey there,
Right.
you know. And that becomes the feast, right? It's the feast of the chosen. It's the feast of the people you want to.
I love that, the feast of the chosen.
Yeah.
That sounds like you're feasting on the chosen.
Well, maybe, or it's for the victors. You have survived.
Yeah, we've all survived. We are all still standing. Let's celebrate that.
Well, yeah, and quite frankly, you could interrupt that circuit and just make that the Thanksgiving.
Absolutely. But not all of us can give up those family obligations.
Yes. Yeah.
So
True.
Even if you can or you can't, I think it's still a good
Not all of us are good enough liars.
I think also just Thanksgiving might just be at, the Denny's.
Yeah.
in our town.
yes.
That's totally
Just
fine.
fucking
At 11 p.m.
Because they still have that Superbird sandwich. I know they do. There's your turkey.
So I don't know if you have any maybe specific questions about like holiday things you're trying to navigate that you can't quite figure out. Maybe it's a difficult conversation. Maybe it's like more honed in. You can't quite use some of the advice we gave. Let us hear about it. Let us hear about, even if like you just have a really awesome Fatsgiving, Friendsgiving thing that you have planned. Let us know. I would love to hear people's alternatives to family gatherings.
Send us a mail.
Or strategies for survival.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for our bit today, I was inspired by Latrice Royale's performance as Audrey 2 and decided to do a little bit of deep digging into drag history.
Okay.
You mean you dragged the history?
Drag herstory.
Now, as I'm talking about these people, I'm going to refer to them by the gender that they were gendered with in the articles that I read about them. So
Okay.
some of these people identify as him. Some of them identify as her. I'm going by the literary precedent.
Fair enough.
All right. And I'm putting on glasses because I cannot read my phone anymore because I am old.
Behold the ravages of time.
Behold the ravages of time. All right. Born a slave in a Hancock, Maryland plantation around 1860, William Dorsey Swan later moved to Washington, D.C., where in the 1880s, he became the leader of a quiet resistance group consisting primarily of other formerly enslaved black men. At a time before formal gay rights organizations existed, the group held balls that featured extensive cross-dressing in Swan's Northwest Washington, D.C. home, just half a mile from the White House. Presiding over these balls, William Dorsey Swan became the earliest known American LGBTQ activist. He also became known as what? 1. The Pink Scourge of Grover Cleveland. 2. One of the founding foremothers of the United States. 3. The Queen of Drag. Or 4. The Corseted Avenger.
I'm going with number 1.
Yeah.
The Pink Scourge of Grover Cleveland.
I mean, it just cries. It calls out to me.
I just love the
Cries.
pink scourge.
I'm leaning a different direction. I like the pink scourge the most, but I wonder if the Queen of Drag might be the origin of the term drag queen. Like, it's got to come from somewhere, right? And if he's, I'm not saying that, he invented drag or drag queens, but just if that could be the modern precedent for the term. So
Is that the one you're going for?
yeah, that's what I'm going for.
All of you should have listened to Michael.
Really?
He referred to himself as the Queen of Drag.
Really?
He is the first acknowledged drag queen to use the term.
I didn't realize the word drag went back that far. I thought it was in the 30s.
So there you go.
Awesome. I got one right. And my logic for it was accurate.
You were on point. Okay.
Wait. Does that mean that you came up with the Pink Scourge of Grover Cleveland?
Yes.
Damn,
That was
you're
I
good.
had an inkling that was a Don-ism.
That is genius.
It just sounded too interesting.
You know what? You ought to be a writer, young man.
All right. Julian Eltinge was born in Massachusetts in the year 1881. He began dressing in drag as a child, performed in saloon drag acts in his early teens, and was taking on women's roles in Shakespeare plays by 18.
Wow.
His career sent him to Broadway, where he earned critical acclaim as a female impersonator, not a drag queen, and a headline spot in the vaudeville circuit, during which he performed a command performance for the King of England. His career eventually moved into films, where he's one of the few performers of the time to have earned more money than Charlie Chaplin during certain
What?
Yeah.
While his drag persona may have made him famous, he also had a side hobby that he became nearly as popular for. What was Julian Eltinge famous for outside of drag?
Hockey.
1. Race car driving.
I was close.
2. Boxing. 3. equestrian, or 4, golf.
I like you were close for race car driving, but not for boxing when we're talking about hockey.
I'm going to go with boxing now.
All of
Boxing
these
is
things
interesting.
make me want to see drag queens doing all of these things.
Drag queen boxing?
Yes.
Right, yeah.
Drag racing.
Drag boxing would be phenomenal. I'm going to go for boxing. I think that's fun.
Are all 3 of you on board for boxing?
Yes.
Okay. Boxing is in fact the correct one.
Yay.
He did a lot of sort of promotional materials out of drag, dressed in male clothing, doing boxing stuff. But as the most famous female impersonator of the time, everyone knew who he was.
Well, and as the most famous female impersonator, you have to know how to defend yourself.
That's fair.
Probably a part of it.
That's how I
That's
guessed
fair.
it. That's how I guessed it.
Interesting.
Okay. The man who would one day be the drag queen Darcelle 15 was born Walter W. Cole in 1930, Portland, Oregon. In 1969, he bought the bar that would become known as the Darcelle 15 Showcase that today is listed in the National Register of Historic Places. But one of Darcelle's crowning achievements has nothing to do with his bar. What is Darcelle 15 best known for? 1. They tried to shoot the head of the KKK when their bar was attacked.
Whoa.
2. In 2016, the Guinness Book of World Records named him the oldest active drag queen in the world. 3. Darcelle started hosting Drag Queen Story Hour at the local library in 1998, the first performer ever to do so. Or 4. Darcelle saved the local church when it was low on funds and was welcomed into it as a deacon, making him the first working drag queen to serve on an American church board.
Is this going to be one of those all of the above answers?
No.
It's you're certain.
I don't know if it's true,
not
but
a
I
trick
like
question.
the idea of shooting the head of the KKK. Let's go with that.
That's fun. Yeah.
It's either that or the last one, I think.
Okay.
I think first Drag Queen Story Hour.
Okay.
I think oldest active drag queen.
Oldest active drag queen. All right.
Split.
And as traditionally, all of you should be listening to
he's right.
Trevor.
Damn it.
In 2016, the Guinness Book of World Records named him the oldest active drag queen in the world. And he actually died just a year or two ago.
Can I say that
still working?
the only thing that explains Trevor's incredible acumen in this game is that he is, in fact, chaotic evil.
Can I just say, Trevor and I are tied in this particular game right now.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
When Crystal LaBeija placed 4th in the 1967 Miss All-America Camp Beauty Pageant, she was pissed. Despite her being a pageant winner and beauty queen, it seems the only thing the judges saw about her was that she was black. This was the moment she realized race played a factor in standards of beauty, say people close to her. In reaction to this, what did Crystal do? 1. Founded the House of LaBeija, which effectively became the blueprint for the drag houses that exist today.
Oh, I love that.
2. Created her own pageant system by and for people of color. Or 3. Became the first house mother in the role recognized today as the core of drag houses and even found family circles.
How is that different from the first one?
Founded the house would mean the structure and the organization. The third one is she invented the role of a house mother.
Boy.
I'm saying D, all of the above.
We're going to go with 4, all of the above.
I'm going off the...
Off the
Yeah,
beaten
because I
track.
feel like there were only 3 answers, and I feel like it's all of them.
Well, and 1 and 3 are the same thing, but the extent. Boy.
I'm also going for
Join.
Okay, are you going to go off the beaten track?
I'm going to go with my cohorts and say yes.
And you are all correct.
Yay.
Crystal did all of these things and could be considered the founder of the entire house ball circuit.
By the way, for those who don't know the film Paris is Burning, about the drag scene in
Heartbreaking and beautiful.
Heartbreaking beautiful about the drag scene in New York City. It really must be seen.
I'm going to take a second also plug the show Pose.
Yes.
For those of you who have not seen it, it is about that era of the drag houses and that sort of stuff. But it is so unexpectedly uplifting and hopeful and beautiful that I did not expect that from that show.
Yeah.
So, listeners, if you're major drag fans and you've been screaming at us through the speakers trying to tell us the answers to all of these questions, where could you express your frustration and anger? Trevor.
We're on Instagram and Twitter as @BigFatGayPod. We're on Facebook as the Big Fat Gay Podcast. Sidebar. Our posts haven't been going to Facebook, and I don't really understand why. My app I use for everything has been weird. Support us on Patreon at patreon.com/bigfatgaypod. Also, 5 stars everywhere. Leave us reviews. See the articles we talked about at www.bigfatgaypod.com, baby. Maybe you're one of those people who's screaming, knowing all the drag answers. And you're infuriated that we are just not up on all the drag stuff. But oh no, it's the boar worms, not the boar worms.
Watch out.
Boar worms.